Testing 1, 2, 3. Warning, the following video may contain adult language and themes. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. If you have a problem with this, stop playing this video now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You had your chance to back out. No turning back now.
Okay, this is my interpretation of Lost Highway, David Lynch's Lost Highway. And believe me, this is probably one of his more confusing movies. It's probably not his most confusing, one of his most confusing movie. Out of all his movies I've seen, what was that one called? What was it? The Inland Empire. That was probably the most confusing David Lynch film. In fact, I didn't even finish it. It just got so weird and confusing. But Lost Highway, while confusing, has two coherent stories, okay? They have a little weird stuff going on in them. But I'm going to explain my interpretation of the entire thing and what it means. I'm going to try and take into account as much as I can, okay? But you can't take into account everything and make a coherent story. It's just, you can't. It's just too out there. It's too random at times, without going into the supernatural, like getting into body switching, like getting into all this other shit. I'm going to keep it based in reality somewhat. My interpretation, and I'm going to explain it, not in the way it was presented on screen, because I don't think it was presented linearly as it was on screen. I think it was presented out of order. What basically I think this movie is, it's about a girl, one girl, who moves to the big city, okay? And she's naive, she's just trying to find a job, she's trying to make it big, and she gets contacted by Robert Loggia's character. And she goes to his place, and it's a trap. She's basically forced, to strip for him, as we're seeing in that one clip, like somewhere in the movie, I can't remember when, but she's forced to strip for him, and she basically becomes his forced hooker. And what eventually happens is she falls in love with Bill Pullman's character. I don't know I can't remember their fictional names, but I'm just using their actors' names. She falls in love with Bill Pullman's character, who is a saxophone player. And she genuinely falls in love with Bill Pullman's character. She loves him. But she lives a double life. Bill Pullman doesn't know she's pretty much indebted to this gangster, Robert Loggia. He doesn't know it, but he suspects it. As you can see in the beginning of the film, the first story with Bill Pullman's character, he suspects that she may be cheating on him. Now, so he doesn't find out, but he suspects it, and the parts where somebody breaks into their house and videotapes them, I believe that is Robert Loggia's character. See, Robert Loggia's character also knows that she's cheating on him with Bill Pullman, or he suspects it. So, or somebody does. Okay, maybe Robert Loggia doesn't suspect it, but I think one of his underlings does. One of the people who work with him. And so what they do, one of the people who is Robert Loggia's underlings, they go to her house, her and Bill Pullman's house where they live, and they videotape them while they sleep. It's sort of a taunting threat, saying like, haha, I know you're cheating on Robert Loggia's character, and I could tell him, he's basically blackmailing the girl, and Bill Pullman is totally oblivious as to what this is. He doesn't know what it is, but like I said, he suspects something. So, what happens is, the girl wants to get away from Robert Loggia's character. So what she does is she wants to use the mechanic. I can't remember the actor's name, the mechanic kid, the young kid who works under the cars and stuff. She wants to use that kid because she realizes the kid falls in love with her because she goes to visit him, accidentally meets him as Robert Loggia goes there to like fix his car and talk to the kid. So she picks up on that the kid likes her. And so she convinces the kid to help her kill Robert Loggia's character so she can be free of Robert Loggia's character and be with Bill Pullman. Now, and this is hinted at plenty of times. Like, I think there's one point where she says, "You'll never have me," to the mechanic kid, which means that she's just using him. And the way what it turns out to be, is that the mechanic kid realizes that she'll never love him, but he loves her so much that he's willing to kill Robert Loggia's character anyway, so she'll be free to live with Bill Pullman and be happy for the rest of her life. So that, at the point where somebody comes up to Bill Pullman's house and says, I think it's Dick Laurent is dead. It's basically the mechanic kid telling the girl that Dick Laurent is dead. You're free to be with Bill Pullman. Now, the ironic part is that Bill Pullman, because he suspects so much that a girl's cheating on him, ends up killing the girl and goes to prison and probably sentenced to death, while the mechanic is on a constant run from the law. He basically doomed himself to be chased by Johnny Law for the rest of his life, so his girlfriend could live happily with Bill Pullman's character, because he realizes she'll never love him, but he loves her so much, so he sacrifices his future so she can have a future with someone she loves. But ironically, the man who supposedly loved her ends up killing her in cold blood because of his jealousy. That's what it means. That's what I think this movie means. Now, I think I incorporated as much as I could of the story. You'll notice I said plenty of places where I used plenty of examples throughout the film. And I think the porn star guy, or whoever they have the party at, I think he's obviously an underling of Robert Loggia's character, and obviously he's killed too. It could have been the porn guy, I guess, who was threatening her or something. I don't know. I mean, I haven't watched this movie in a long time, and I'm basically doing this all from memory, but I think that was what I interpreted it as. And obviously there are some plot holes, but I think this is the most coherent version, and that incorporates the most things. I've heard other versions where the second half of the movie after Bill Pullman goes to jail wasn't even real. It was all friggin' dream, and at the end, it was all Bill Pullman's dream, and at the end, Bill Pullman gets fried at the electric chair. You know, I don't like that. I think that's a huge cop-out. I think it's lazy, and I really think you can incorporate the second half without doing the whole dream cop-out thing. And I'd also like to say, I'll do a little review. I love this movie. I love Lost Highway. It's flawed, but it's extremely stylistic. This is not necessarily how I would tell a story, but it's how I would direct a story, and the style I would use, and the shots, and the music. It's just so awesome. It's such a film noirish, stylistic trip. I would just direct it this way. I probably wouldn't use the same story. I'd probably make it more linear. But, yeah, and there's body switching, but along the way, but you gotta ignore that. I mean, there are times for my story to work, I think there are times where you have to consider that Bill Pullman is actually the mechanic kid, and the mechanic kid is actually Bill Pullman. Because they do that a lot. Like, the mechanic kid's doing what Bill Pullman does, and Bill Pullman's doing what mechanic kid did. I really, and I think that makes the most sense out of it. I don't think you can really incorporate everything without going to the supernatural. But I think that's a good story, in my opinion, right there. And I think that's probably what David Lynch was going for. So yeah, I really love this movie. I would give it 3.5 to 4 out of 5. It is just that good. Watch it now. It's got a lot of nudity in it, and I think it is kind of violent. I can't remember the violence. It wasn't that memorable, but I'm pretty sure there was some. I think there's a lot of nudity in it though. But yeah, I'd watch this movie. It's really good if you can stomach it. So take it easy.